as, talking about finances, is there like a certain, like two certain questions that we should be asking? Like, what should we be zoning in on? I mean, are we supposed to get down in nitty gritty as far as like how much money do you have in your account?
Yes.
Like,
Depending on how serious you are. Now,
yeah, yeah.
the first date, no.
Not
But
on date 4.
but if you're about to get engaged, yes, absolutely. You need to know that for sure. Because you're going to find out eventually when you get married anyway, hopefully.
Yeah.
But actually, there's an interesting statistic around that too. I believe I want to say 40% of spouses don't know what their other partner makes, actually brings home and pay, which is problematic.
Wait, and they're like married?
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
That's how uncomfortable money discussions are.
Why is it so uncomfortable? I'm agreeing.
Yeah.
But why is it so uncomfortable?
I think it's just a cultural societal thing.
Like it's a secret.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so interesting. As
Mhm.
far as prenups go, what is your view on that? Are we all supposed to be getting prenups no matter what?
I am pro prenup. And a common misconception about prenups is that if you don't really have a lot of assets or you're not making a lot of money going into the marriage, you don't need a prenup. But that's not what a prenup is for. Whatever you had prior to the marriage, most of the time is already protected. That's considered separate property. Prenups are for marital property, assets that you all obtain during your marriage. So I think most people should get a prenup. I absolutely, if I do get engaged again or get married again, I will have a prenup.
As far as, so this is my past experience. My ex, I was in an abusive relationship and I had no money. He kept all the money for himself and had me working 14 hours a day. That's a whole nother story. But he wanted a prenup. And his excuse, I was already planning to leave. I already had a secret bank account. I already had secret online businesses rolling. I was making money. But it took me 4 years. It took me 4 years to gain enough money to leave. And he had started talking about, we were with each other for, 13 years total. So towards the end, he started talking about marriage finally. And prenup came up. And he insisted like the whole reason why I left was because he said the word prenup. Well, I mean, I had already been saving for 2 years and already had like, a plan in place. But it is scary and it is uncomfortable. And I did think about it, as far as if it was a healthy relationship.
Right.
If I was in that situation, a healthy one, and I had that much stuff, I would probably want a prenup.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, why isn't it more? It would just be easier if they just made it a thing where you had to get a prenup. Then it wouldn't be so uncomfortable.
Right. And really, there is a prenup. So even if you and your partner don't come up with your own prenup on your own, right? Okay. The state is going to decide for you. So by default, there is a prenup. A judge of the state is going to decide what happens. So it's so much better, in my opinion, to do it up front when you all like each other, when you're in love, when you're more likely to be fair, to do the prenup then. Because once you're about to get a divorce, most of the time you're not divorcing that person, you're married. That person has changed. And it's just easier to do it up front than at the end where emotions are involved, in my opinion.
Yes, 100%. So what were a couple of...
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, not specifically your situation, but a lot of women benefit from prenups in various ways, right? So a prenup, you can have it say pretty much whatever you want to for the most part. So say one set of clientele that I have that's usually devastated by divorce is stay-at-home moms. A lot of times men feel like, well, I did all the work, I paid the bills, all she did was stay at home and raise the kids. Why should she get anything? She didn't make any money. But in a prenup, a lot of times what you can do is you can say, for every year I stayed at home and I didn't work and I supported your goals and dreams and sacrificed my own, I want X amount of money for every year.
Beautiful.
That's another good reason to have a prenup.
Yeah, beautiful. That makes sense. I totally appreciate that. And then as far as the negotiability of, obviously it's negotiable, right? So He sits down with you or she sits down with you and says, hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing. it's a conversation.
Yes.
Like, it's not like the person with the money makes all the rules. You can negotiate and say, "Hey, I think that it'd be worthy for me to get this much
Right.
versus that much, or to get this vehicle or this house or whatever it is."
Yep.
So it's a negotiation,
Exactly.
just right off the bat.
Yes.
And I think that females, whoever is the lesser of the two should welcome it with open arms, because in that state of like what you're saying, happiness, the person is more than likely more happy to negotiate with you.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
That just made me feel way better.
Good.
Hopefully it did for those listening. Yeah, it shouldn't really have to be scary. I agree with you. And while we're talking about this, I actually do remember, I didn't ever read it because I didn't really care. He actually made two. So like there was two different ones that he made. I don't know.
Your
ex. Yeah.
okay.
But I remember him saying out loud, I never even remotely glanced at him because I didn't care. I was leaving. But I remember him saying out loud that in one of them, he was going to give me one of the townhouses that we had purchased, like out of state or something, was like going to be mine. So stuff like that, like you can, different assets and stuff can go to certain people. How does that work as far as updating it as more and more stuff is being added? You're with somebody for 20 years, and do you just update it?
So you can get a postnup. Have you heard of postnups? It's basically a prenup after you're married.
Okay.
But
Ooh, that sounds awkward.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't advise that, because if my spouse comes to me after we're married wanting a postnup or wanting to update a prenup, like,
he's thinking about divorcing your ass.
So he's probably about to walk out the door. You need to be having another conversation at that point.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Out of the journey that you've been up to this point, what do you think is the number one lesson you've learned about life?
Gosh. I don't know if it's number one, but it's definitely one of the most important, is to try your best to be financially independent, because it gives you so much power and freedom to walk away from situations that aren't serving you. Like walking away from a relationship 6 weeks before you're supposed to get married, or I have a daughter now, so after we called off the engagement, we found out I was pregnant shortly thereafter. But a lot of women in my situation would have tried to stay and would have tried to work it out, but I was able to leave and comfortably take care of my daughter. And that doesn't just relate to relationships, but also maybe a job that you're not liking, right? Where you're being mistreated. Being financially independent gives you opportunities and the freedom to just walk away.
What's your viewpoint as far as joint accounts?
So for me personally, every situation is different.
That's why I said, what's your take
okay. I would want to do a combination of both. So I want my own separate account. He can have his own separate account. I would want everything that I've accumulated prior to the marriage, that should be mine, that should be in my account, and that should be in his. When it comes to joint expenses, like the mortgage and cars and things like that, I believe those should be in a joint account. You can just pay for those expenses out of the joint account.
Beautiful. And groceries, all that stuff.
Right.
And then as far as, again, in your opinion, if you're married, what would you do if husband wants to drop a few $1,000s on a brand new couch and entertainment center, and you weren't really down with that right now? How would that work?
He can take that out of his money in a separate account and purchase it.
Do you get to sit on that couch?
Yeah. I mean, of course, we would discuss it first. Like, we would have a conversation about it. Yeah. But if we absolutely couldn't agree, that's one of the great things about just having your own money. You don't have to sit there and discuss every single thing or every single purchase with your partner. That's part of the point of having your own accounts.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And then as far as, the reason that I ended up in the situation I was in was because he handled all the money and he
Mm.
handled my paycheck.
Oh,
So, he decided that my 14 hours a day was 7 days a week was worth $250 a week, for real. So, and then I had to pay for all the groceries and had to pay for my gas and my phone bill and everything that was mine. So I was living paycheck to paycheck in like $1 million house, driving around a brand new white BMW, fully loaded, and shopping at Aldi's and thrift stores because I literally had no money in my account. It was crazy. But as far as getting, not ever ending up in a situation like that, would be obviously to have your own money,
right. It's
right?
so important.
And so this is a thing. I have talked to people about this because this is my story.
Hmm.
And, the whole thing with the joint account, I don't want to say gotten in arguments because they weren't really arguments, but very passionate conversations with individuals, not necessarily boyfriends, but just individuals about the joint account and how it is seen as like not being a team if you don't put all your money into one account on either end, because he's making more and she should have access to it, or she's making more and he should have access to it. How do you debate that as far as it being a team if you want your own money?
So they're against having separate accounts, period.
Yeah,
Oh gosh.
that's like a real thing. There's people like
Yeah,
that
I
that
know.
are around.
Right.
They want, if you are in this, if
Right. No,
you
I
are
know.
in this and you are fully committed, men and women, I've had this
Right.
conversation with, then we should have both of our monies together, 100%, no
Right.
secrets. But
Right.
then that puts an individual like me in a very tough spot.
Right. No, I understand. I have this conversation with people all the time. And usually those people haven't been devastated by divorce or financial abuse. And once they have, I'm pretty sure they would change their tone.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Is that a good reason? If it doesn't feel authentic to you, is that a good enough reason to walk away? I feel like it is. What's your opinion?
To walk away from a marriage.
Yeah, no,
Like,
no, because we're having this conversation pre-marriage because we're
all
doing
right.
what Leah
I
said.
think pre-marriage, any reason is a good reason to walk away. You're not taking any vows. You don't really even need a reason. Now, when you're married, yeah, you need to, try to work things out, have a conversation, put some effort in. But if you're not married to that person, you can leave.
If it's not feeling good.
Right. Trust your gut. That when your question about what was the question you asked me? The number one like tip. That was my second one. I was gonna say trust your gut. It was between trust your gut or be financially independent. If things don't feel right, they probably aren't. Walk away.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest thing, for all of you listening right now. Thank you so much for the support and the love. I appreciate you being here. But I think that is the number one thing, is trusting your gut because we get these feelings and we
Mhm.
know, and, we wind up kicking ourselves later
Yes.
because we didn't listen to those things.
Yes. Yep.
So I totally agree with that.